January 11th, 2022 meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Time being 7 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. First thing, we're going to start doing something new at our meetings, starting the meeting off with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody would rise and join us, flags behind us. And I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Going to do some approval of meeting minutes. First set of minutes on the agenda is August 31st, 2021. This is the public portion, so I would entertain a motion that the board vote to approve the minutes of the meeting dated August 31st, 2021, as written.
I'm gonna have to second it because I'm abstaining.
I make that motion.
You can second it because I'm going to abstain from all. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Abstain. Yes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That's 4 in affirmative, 1 abstention. Those minutes pass. Second set of minutes are August 31st, 2021, the executive session. I will entertain a motion that the board vote to approve the minutes of the meeting dated August 31st, 2021, the executive session as written.
I apologize. I don't know if I don't think I have them.
They
in my
were
packet.
They were sent to us.
previously sent out
Executive session.
confidential.
Oh. Okay, I make that motion.
Second for discussion.
We have a motion and a second in the discussion.
In those minutes, I find them very difficult to follow because of the abbreviations. Sometimes there's, it's CM, sometimes it's C, sometimes it's a person's name. So I found that to be kind of hard to follow along at times. The second issue I have is that at the end of the minutes, it states we adjourned, and we did not. We had a vote, a roll call vote to go out of executive session, and we left executive session to go into our regular meeting again. So I do not think that should state adjourned, because that's not right. So, I personally would like to see that just changed, so.
I will entertain an amendment to pass over these meeting minutes until those corrections are made.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
you
I'll
wanna do
second,
it?
yep.
Sure.
Okay. Amended motion to pass over August 31st, 2001 executive session to be reviewed at a later date after corrections have been made. It's been made and seconded. I will call for a vote.
Yes.
Abstain. Yes.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. That's 4 in affirmative, 1 abstention. We
Thank
will
you.
revisit those minutes. Next set of minutes is September 7th, 2021. I will entertain a motion that the board vote to approve the minutes of the meeting dated September 7th, 2021 as written.
Well, do you want to make that motion or you abstain?
I'm gonna have to abstain, sure.
Okay. Dennis, you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Abstain.
Abstain. Yes.
Yes.
I'll vote yes. That's 3 in affirmative, 2 abstentions. The meeting minutes for September 7th have passed. I will entertain a motion that the board vote to approve the minutes of the meeting dated September 21st, 2021 as written.
I will make that motion. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to pass over that. Sorry, Dennis. You go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion. We have a Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think that with regard to, I'm trying to find them in my packet. There were a couple things in there that I felt needed to be added to them. Particularly after the police were called. I think that it needs to be noted that there was a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting, and it was rejected.
There was not a motion and a second. I will disagree with that. There was a motion, I know Selectman LeBlanc kept saying, let's adjourn, nobody seconded.
Selectman Daniels did. Aside from that, I also was not absent for the vote for adjournment. And it says here that I was. I was not removed from the meeting. I stayed for the meeting. No, I know. I just, because we have to discuss it in open meeting, that was another inaccuracy, so. Human error, and I'm not, it's okay. I'm not upset by it, just something that needs to be changed as well. Just my 2 cents.
Would we like to amend the motion to either pass over until corrections are made or approve it pending those corrections? Or with those corrections being made?
I don't recall that being the issue that night, but if you and Selectman Triano agree to that, then I will.
I think we should perhaps come back to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
amend my motion that will come back to those minutes.
Okay. I'll second the motion. Motion has been made and seconded to come back to September 21st, 2001 minutes after review. I'll call for a vote,
Yes?
Abstain?
Yes?
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. That's for an affirmative, one abstention. I move that the board vote, I'll entertain a motion that the board vote to approve the minutes of the meeting dated October 6th, 2021 as written.
I make that motion?
Second?
The motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes?
Abstain?
Yes.
Yes.
I will vote yes. That's for an affirmative, one abstention. October 6th passes as written. I'll entertain a motion that the board vote to approve the minutes of the meeting dated November 9th, 2021 as written.
I make that motion.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote.
Yes?
Abstain?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to get to it. I think I was absent for that meeting.
Oh, yeah, according to this, yes.
I was absent,
Yes.
correct? Abstain. I shouldn't have voted on yeah, okay. No, I'm gonna abstain, sorry.
Okay. And I will vote yes. That is 3 affirmative, 2 abstentions. November 9th passes as written. I'll entertain a motion that the board vote to approve the minutes of the meeting dated December 7th, 2021, open session as written.
I make that motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote.
Yes?
Yes.
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 And I will vote yes. That's 5 in affirmative. The minutes have passed. Next, I will entertain that the board vote to approve the minutes of the meeting dated December 7th, 2021, the executive session. It was previously sent by confidential email.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. I will call for a vote.
Discussion?
Yes, sorry, discussion.
I think, and I know because it's executive session, I can't talk about the content, but I think that there was a typographical error in it. Can we circle back to it just to change what was referenced, just because I know I can't discuss executive session content here?
If it's not the content, but can we approve it with that change? Is it,
Well, I can't say what the
okay.
change is being requested as,
okay.
and it's not a big deal, so it just, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to run it by anybody before today's meeting, so.
Okay. We will,
Quick question, are those what we received today via email?
yesterday.
The 7th, was it yesterday or?
Yesterday.
It was yesterday, okay.
I don't know if you want to take a
Yeah.
5-minute recess so I can just mention it. I don't know if I can mention it to Dee as the secretary or not. I don't know what the rules are with that.
Yeah, we can take a 5-minute recess. We will adjourn, recess till 7:15.
Okay.
Which was seconded was to approve the December 7th, 2021 executive session as written. After discussion, there needs to be review of the minutes. We are going to, I'll entertain amended motion to delay approval,
To circle back
to circle, yeah,
to next meeting? Or something?
yes.
I would make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 I'll vote yes. That's 5 in the affirmative. Next item on our agenda is Oxford Community Electricity Aggregation Program. We're going to be the board will be receiving a presentation by John O'Rourke from Good Energy. John, could you join us? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Town Manager, thank you for letting me appear before you tonight. I have to say it's very good to be here in person. Happy New Year to all. I've been out now for about 3 months with clients in-person sessions, which is great. And it's good to see everyone again in person. I just want to give you a brief presentation on the community electricity aggregation, an update as of tonight. In that first slide, you can see enrollments. In July of 2017 at launch, you had 3,418 enrolled. As of August 21st, and unfortunately that's the last month we have really good data on. We've had a little trouble getting data after that, but I will update that data with you when we get it. August 2021, we had 2798. The variance is not something to be concerned about. There are always variances in these programs. People move into town, people move out of town, people get into other programs, okay? So your maximum was at launch in July of 2017. Minimum at November 2020 at 2426. But as I say, you can see the graph is basically pretty stable. You see those little blips? That's occasionally what happens when we send out what we call sweeps letters. We get new accounts from National Grid. We send those letters out and people join the program generally. And essentially, we've gotten a number of calls from Oxford residents in the last month or so because of what's happening with the National Grid rates. So that's good. This is cumulative savings for Oxford, about $1.468 million, which is good. And again, you're going to see that bump up in this next round, this next 6 months with National Grid. And essentially, we think that's a good showing for Oxford. Again, with the number of residents we have in the program. That next chart, the rate comparison chart, this tells the whole story. Essentially, the aggregation has done very well against the National Grid basic service rates. You can see where out of the, I guess we have one tie, and out of the other 9, we have 7 that beat National Grid and 2 that were National Grid slightly beat us. And again, you had a situation with those 2 summer adjustments where the natural gas rate was very low, and it was an advantage to National Grid as well as Eversource during those periods. But you can also see how that worked against National Grid in this last adjustment. They're at 14,821. And actually, they're lower than Eversource, which is at 15,735. So, and again, they had to bid in that period where natural gas rates skyrocketed during that period between September and December. So unfortunately, they got caught in a bad market, and they have no choice but to bid during that period. We, on the other hand, can go and bid in good markets to renew programs. And we'll be talking to Town Manager Callahan about that in the next month or so to go out to bid for the next round because your current contract ends at the end of 2022. And again, your aggregation is together with Charlton and Millbury, which has worked very well, as you can see. That next page is just a simple rate comparison with the National Grid rate for the November through April period. And again, your standard product is beating National Grid in that period by 4.5 cents. So we're going to see some more people coming into the program as they get their bills from National Grid and they realize that the aggregation is quite a bit less. And again, even your premium 100% at 12.3 is way below that National Grid rate. So your enrollments have remained relatively stable in a tight range, and that indicates general acceptance of the program. Although at the launch of the program, there were some very active social media groups in town that were opposed to the aggregation. So that had an effect on enrollments over time. But essentially, it's remained relatively stable. And again, we expect cumulative savings to continue to show a favorable trend, although we have to say that savings cannot be guaranteed. But as you can see from the history of the program, it has done reasonably well, and we expect that to continue. I'll open it up for questions.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, before the questions, I do want to acknowledge the cooperative relationship we've had with Good Energy, in particular the sage advice that we have gotten and wise counsel from Mr. O'Rourke. And I do want to say that it's not easy, even as a manager, to make a decision for an entire community for an extensive period of time, not even just a 6 months or 12 months, but to actually gauge and listen to the advice of people who are in the market to say we need to take advantage of that. When you think about when this decision was made, it was way before we even actually could identify that the actual trend was going to be as disparate as it is. And that is wonderful news for the townspeople. When you make that final decision, you're always a little tentative. It's like going to the market and wondering if it's going to be the right decision. But I will say on the 2 occasions that we have renewed for a much extensive period of time, it's been absolutely the right decision. And for those people who've been able to enjoy those rates, when he says premium 100%, he's talking about an all-green actual rate, which is unheard of at 12 cents. And I knew that when we got the 10.3 and the 12, that, prior for the last 4 years, you haven't seen those. So that's great. Great credit to you, and on behalf of the townspeople who are in the program, I'm sure they thank you as well, because that is substantial savings on a month-to-month basis, depending on how much electricity they use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that is to our advantage is that not only are we involved in community electricity aggregation, but we have a big portfolio of commercial industrial. So our analysts and our buyers of electricity are in the market every day. And that helps us tremendously with the community electricity aggregation, because essentially they'll know where the market is. And as we have renewals coming up, they will advise us when the best time is to go out to bid for the contracts for the community electricity aggregations. And certainly in the last couple of renewals we've had with our clients, our aggregations, the sweet spot has been the 30 to 36 month time period. This time around, that might be a little shorter, but we'll know more. Probably we'll be talking March or April. We'll talk to you then about getting together and seeing what the market is like, and moving forward with the renewal that would start in January of 2023. So, and again, one of our advantages is we have that large C&I, that commercial industrial clientele. So our analysts are in the market, and it helps us with the community electricity aggregations. And thank you again for that compliment. Other questions?
Board members? I did have a question. I think one of the confusing parts that went out around the social media was and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the pamphlet that was sent out to the town was for auto enrollment. That if you didn't do anything, then you'd be automatically enrolled in the towns versus National Grid's. Was that correct?
It's, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
No,
yes.
not out.
The way it goes is that if you want to come into the aggregation, it's automatic, okay? If you don't, you opt out.
Okay.
And that's, essentially the way the law is written, and the way the Department of Public Utilities has given us guidance for anyone who wants to come in on like a sweeps letter that goes out.
Okay. So it's mandated to enroll everybody, and then if they don't want it, they opt out of it.
That is correct. That's
Okay.
the way the law is written, yes.
I myself did not realize until recently that I always knew that you were paying for two portions of an electricity bill, the service, the equipment to get the electricity to your house, and then the product itself, the electricity. And I don't think it's very well advertised that just because National Grid is the electrical provider in this area, you are not required to receive electricity from National Grid. And when you create an account with National Grid, you have the right to go and do your research, figure out who has the lowest prices, and then choose your electrical product from there. And I don't think that's well educated, so this presentation definitely helps with that. And the graph shows just how much you're saving the residents of Oxford. Even if they're not paying attention to that and they automatically get enrolled into that and don't opt out of it, you are saving the residents money. That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Everybody has my card. My cell phone number's on there. If you have any questions, please just give me a call anytime. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
And Madam Town Manager will be talking to you shortly.
Sounds good. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Have
you,
a good
John.
night.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Same to you. Is there anybody in the audience this evening for 24 Conlin Road? Okay. Is there anybody in the audience this evening for 50 Main Street? 0 Main Street? Okay. The next item on the agenda was 24 Conlin Road. We will table that for a later time this evening. Sir, if you'd like to come up and join us.
50 Main Street.
Yes, 50 Main Street. So this item on the agenda is right of first refusal waiver request for 50 Main Street, 0 Main Street, and 0 Holbrook Road. This request was by Marianne Lackey of 50 Main Street, Oxford. And you are, sir?
My name is Daniel Cotton. I'm the attorney for Marianne Lackey.
Okay.
And Ms. Lackey owns 3 parcels, 50 Main Street, 0 Main Street, and 0 Holbrook Ave. And all 3 parcels are under agreement to be sold. It's a total of about 75 acres. Her offer is $1,169,000. The intended use by the buyer is for a commercial warehouse facility. And it's under 61A at the present time. As a result, the board has the right to elect to purchase the property under their right of first refusal. We're requesting a waiver unless, of course, the board decides to exercise their right.
Okay. Board members, is there any discussion on this? Nope. In our packets, the Conservation Commission had, let's see, stated that there was no interest in the property for conservation purposes. Some members know the possible value of the land for other town uses such as sewer treatment or DPW facility. Then town manager, was there any discussion on that? Is the town,
So, from what I understand, myself and the Director for Planning and Economic Development had reviewed the parcels in looking at potentially what could happen depending on whether the new buyer was going to elect to use all 75 acres or whether there may be a possibility for some other uses that the town might find viable or of interest. I believe that our DPW Director, who I did see come in, had mentioned that he was going to send a actual either email or memorandum, I could be wrong, this afternoon, to say that because of the type of topography and/or potential wetland, that it may not be suitable for either a DPW facility or a sewer facility. If we'd like to ask the DPW Director if it's not contained in here, I think that might be helpful if you want to come up, Jared, and maybe let the board know your sentiments on that issue. That would be very helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Manager. So we did a cursory review of the property, and based on a couple of the factors that Jenna just mentioned, Madam Manager, had mentioned, it doesn't look like it's going to would be feasible for either of those uses. And at this point, given the value of the property, it'd be purely speculative for the town to undergo and not waive its right and pursue that property, in my opinion, for those particular uses.
okay, thank you.
I think also from our Director of Planning and Economic Development, the one thing we did discuss, if there wasn't going to be a true potential use for town at this time, that because it's such a large parcel and it does buttress up against the railroad tracks and then 395, that we would hope as the intended use goes forward and a permitting process begins, that perhaps the planning board would take into consideration providing adequate buffers. We know now there's quite a bit of open space there, that both wildlife corridor, all that kind of stuff, knowing it's close to 395, that we would want our planning board to really look at the aesthetics of the new facility and how that would lay out. And I think that would be part of the planning board process, and our Director for Planning and Economic Development is aware of that as well. But that wouldn't be a reason necessarily to not entertain the board's ability to pass over acceptance of the property.
Anything else from the board? I'll entertain a motion. Pleasure of the board.
I make a motion that the town waives their right of first refusal for the following 3 parcels in the town of Oxford, Mass. 50 Main Street, shown on Oxford Assessor's Map 51-A06. 0 Main Street, shown on Oxford Assessor's Map 51-A05. And 0 Holbrook Road, shown on Oxford Assessor's Map 51-A01, and this shall apply to all future transfers.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes?
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative.
Thank you very much for your
You're
time.
welcome. Have a good night. The next Next item on our agenda is application for a new Class 2 license by Gary Jackson Motors to be located at 498 Main Street.
This, yeah, he deferred that.
Gary Anamorati will be the manager for that property. Good evening and welcome. The board is in receipt of complete application for this new Class 2 license. Application, identification, corporation information was attached. The decision by the planning board was attached, and Mr. Sousa is present this evening if anybody has any questions. Board members.
I can repeat what I said before. I've met with this gentleman before when I was on the planning board. There were a number of site plan issues with the site. In fact, we really never had a site plan. He came in and he provided us a site plan, met with conservation, addressed some of their concerns that they had regarding conservation issues. We have a good plan on file, and I think he's done a good job on meeting that part of his responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Gary, you're, do you already own a business?
Yeah, in Charlton.
Okay, so are you moving that business or expanding your current business?
Expanding current business.
Expanding the current business. It sounds like you've had to do a lot of work to that property.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of work over there.
Okay.
Got a lot of junk out of there.
Mhm.
The tenant before us made a pretty big mess.
Okay. And sounds like pending this vote, tomorrow's the grand opening.
Hopefully, yeah. I know Norm won't let us down.
Oh, I know what you've been through.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the Class 2 license for Gary Jackson Motors to be located at 498 Main Street, subject to the conditions set forth by the planning board during their meeting held December 13th, 2021.
I make that motion?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I will vote yes. That's 5 in affirmative. Welcome to Oxford.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Let's see. Just checking one more time. Anybody from 24 Conlin Road? Seeing none, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the town health insurance. Discussion of felon health termination of coverage and recommendation of the insurance advisory committee and vote to select health insurance provider for fiscal year 23.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, approaching the table is Joanne Frederick, who's our human resource specialist, and who has really spearheaded this initiative along with our financial team and our management team. Back in November, I had apprised the board that Fallon Community Health Plan was no longer going to be providing municipal insurance coverage. We are not the only community that has been faced with having to grapple with that. We have been on quite a strict timetable. I want to give a lot of credit to Joanne for not only helping us convene a sort of a quiet insurance advisory committee, because things have been quite steady and we haven't had a lot of things to have to address. But having said that, we had a robust committee, several different meetings, and NFP, who has been our insurance brokers, are in attendance tonight. And I know that Joanne is going to work with them to provide you with information that has been provided in great detail to our insurance advisory committee to make this very important decision on behalf of all employees and retirees. So those are two components that are very important when they're making this decision. They have made a recommendation to the board that they're going to articulate to you this evening, and hopefully we can gain the support of the board to move forward so that we can make sure we have adequate coverage and continuity of services for both our retirees and our employees. And with that, I'll let Joanne take the floor.
Thank you very much, Jen, and thank you for having me here this evening. One of the things that, when I did become aware that Fallon was leaving and discontinuing coverage for our employees and retirees, is I wanted to jump on this as quickly as possible to move it along, because we're looking at rolling over about 500 individuals into new plans. So we're looking at a lot of work to be done in the next 4 months. So that being said, I kind of wanted to put together a timeline, which I sent you in your packet, so you can see how aggressive we've been at, trying to get the IAC on board and the multiple meetings and sessions that we've had. So, we were notified by NFP in April about the discontinuance. In July, I notified all employees and retirees, and I gave you exhibits of all the letters, et cetera, in your packets, that we would be looking for a new plan to replace Fallon. And then, working with NFP, we put out a request for proposal in September with a turnaround date for October 1st to see who would quote on our insurance plan. And we had four results. One was Maya, the other was Mass Strategic Health Group, and then Blue Cross as a fully insured company, and I honestly forgot the fourth, but it's in the packet. The two fully insured companies were coming in at 20 to 30% increases for us. Maya was presenting an 8.8% increase, and MSHG was presenting us with a 7% increase. So in meeting multiple times with the IAC board, we decided, I contacted both Maya and MSHG, and they did come in, one at each session to, really talk about the plan and the advantages and, the pros and cons, et cetera, with the help of Ken Lombardi and William Short, who are here tonight. So our last meeting was held on January 11th. At that time, both our broker was here as well as the committee members. We have representation from every union, police, fire, dispatch, and all the school side teachers, secretaries, custodians, et cetera, present. And the vote at that meeting was unanimous to move forward with Mass Strategic Health Group. So at this time, I would like to present NFP Ken Lombardi and William Short to go into the details of that plan option with you for any questions. And do you have any questions for me at this time? No? Okay, so I will turn it over to them.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us to sit in and present some information. I think these packages were provided
Yes.
to board members in advance. So as Joanna had mentioned, the process that the town, our office, and the employees went through was we aggregated all of the healthcare plan information provided to us by Fallon Health Plan and presented the data to these insurance organizations, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Direct, Harvey Pilgrim / Tufts, which is now .32 Healthcare, technically. Always Health Partners, a newer addition to the municipal marketplace. And then the two consortiums, the Mass Interlocal Insurance Association and Mass Strategic Health Group. So these organizations all provided return proposals, and the two that were advantageous were clearly the ones from Maya and Mass Strategic Health Group. A little bit more about those trust programs. Both of these organizations were able to provide pretty significant primary care provider coverage to the membership, or in other words, we study the data that Fallon presented to us, including all of the members and their elected primary care physicians, and matched it up with these two organizations. Maya actually uses Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts as its claims administrator, and Mass Strategic Health Group uses Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare as its claims administrator. Both of the networks were robust, and in fact, I think Harvard Pilgrim actually had a 100% network match. Blue Cross was slightly lower, I think about 96 or 97%. So statistically, pretty much able to cover all of the providers that are currently used. So I want to be clear with the membership that we are only afforded primary care physician information in detail. We don't get specialist information, so we can't actually tell each individual member if all of the providers they're using are within either of the networks, both, so the membership was provided with lookup information. It's likely that we won't see a huge disruption with providers in the geographic area, so I think we're comfortable that both of these organizations would be fine as suitable replacements. Dee, could you, thanks, John.
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna go into some high-level detail on these numbers, and I, apologize for the depth of the information, but we, as Jen had mentioned, we're not just looking at the July 1 active employee plans that are renewing. You also have to worry about our senior plans, which renewed on January 1st. So we have 2 plan years for those folks that are 65 and retired and covered by Medicare. It follows the Medicare year. And then we also have the active employees that are on the July 1st through June 30th plan year. So what we ask the IAC to be aware of is what is the overall cost structure to the individual members, as well as what is the overall budget impact to the town. I will advise the board that in all the years we've been working, the Insurance Advisory Committee has been very sensitive while they're representing their union's specific interests, the overall concerns that the towns would have for budget costs too. So they were engaged in not just what does it mean to them, but what does it mean to the community as well. So what we did is we kind of bottom lined the overall snapshot. And so the program provided to the town through the Mass Interlocal Insurance Association generates a little over a 7% bottom line cost. As you can see, there's a little bit of a difference between what the town share would be and then what the retiree share would be in aggregate. Both of these numbers, 7.68, 6.05, clearly are sort of outside the typical expected results. Over the last probably at least 7 or 8 years, the town's budget costs have been literally around 2.5% on average each year. And that's been a combination of marketing, leverage, Jen yelling at the insurance companies, a number of factors that have all kind of earned the town and the employees coming up with something manageable. There have been some plan design changes that were presented and were agreed to by the unions as well. There's been some creative techniques, health reimbursement arrangements to help with some of the cost sharing. But our goal has always been to kind of come in with about a 2 or 3% overall budget increase annually. So this is the first year we've kind of seen something out of the ordinary. So the bottom line with the Maya proposal was just over 7%. And then if you go to the next slide, you'll see the bottom line just about 3.6%. What I'll point out too is the difference between the two plans is the retiree program that Mass Strategic Health Group presented is much more advantageous than the one that was presented by the Mass Interlocal Insurance Association. So what does that mean? They were able to provide the retirees with a much lower cost premium rate at a similar level of benefits and no disruption of providership. So, and the reason for that is because this particular trust has entered into a unique arrangement with Aetna for prescription drug coverage. While it's not really, the detail isn't critical, it's a behind-the-scene component of the plan that is the reason why this is cost-effective, because of the size that Aetna's got for providing retiree prescription drug coverage. So what we can suggest to you is that these both are favorable given the current trends in the marketplace, and obviously the Mass Strategic Health Group seems to have benefited the overall groups slightly more. You'll see that there's a couple of different contribution levels. Based on date of hire, all retirees are in at 50-50, and clearly the bottom third of the sheet is the one that's most important because that's where the majority of the seniors are in these various plans. We will point out that both Maya and Mass Strategic Health Group have requested that all of the seniors are rolled into their individual plans. And in the past, we've had multiple senior plans, but now we're going to recommend that there's only one senior plan as of July 1st, if for instance, the Mass Strategic Health Group is chosen. What we can tell you, though, is that none of the seniors will lose any of their provider access. They'll have robust benefits, and in fact, they'll have slightly better consumer programs, hearing, vision, some dental services that'll benefit the seniors generally. So it is a recommendation that we don't believe is going to have any negative impact. Can I go to the next page? Well, let's pass over this. I think, not that I want to go into the detail on the seniors, we did make a note, but I do want to point out what we're talking about when we talk about Maya and Mass Strategic Health Group, because for most of the communities in Massachusetts, very few organizations purchase health insurance. Go to the next one.
Next one, okay.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I was
Both,
trying-
most municipalities in Massachusetts purchase health insurance through one of three ways, either through the Group Insurance Commission, direct through the insurance companies, as Oxford did or does today, Fallon Health Plan, or in consortium with other communities. Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance, the Mass Strategic Health Group, West Suburban Health Group, Minuteman Neshoba, Scantic Valley, Cape Cod. There's about a dozen of them in Massachusetts, and they aggregate communities and geographic areas, and given the size, they're able to provide lower cost administrative services for benefits and more cost-effective reinsurance programs that limit the exposure to the different trusts. So all of this detail was evaluated by the Insurance Advisory Committee. Both organizations, Maya and Mass Strategic Health Group, made presentations and they discussed their financials. And essentially, what this all meant was we had the IAC engaged in sort of the detailed process of sort of understanding how health insurance works. To the employee, it will be a Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare ID card and provider, and they won't know anything different to how the insurance arrangement works. And then one of the advantages to Mass Strategic is when a community joins the Mass Strategic Health Group, the community actually gets to be part of the management of that trust program. So Jen, for instance, or Joanne could sit in on the board meeting and study the financials, pay attention to the direction of the trends, and be able to be poised as to anticipate and make any recommendations or changes. None of these offers require any cost to buy into these trust programs. Maya requires that you would continue an arrangement for a 2-year commitment with a already established second-year renewal at the trust average, which we will know what the trust average is when they set it on January 22nd at the MMA. Historically, Maya's average rate has been about 6 or 7% over the last 12 years that we've been studying it. Mass Strategic Health Group has low renewals. The first couple of years have been in the 2 to 3% range, which is sort of the target level that we've been sort of targeting or aiming for over the last couple of years. So these are the details of the information. I don't know if we need to go into the specifics completely. Certainly a lot of information. We're talking about, as Joe said, roughly 500 people to kind of move into these new plans. We obviously want to start now. We want to make sure the employees are provided with the information and the educational information they may need. We'll worry about the open enrollments, which would have to occur probably in November or sometime of that nature. Ultimately, the goal is all of this gets wrapped up. Payroll deductions are made adequately in June for July. Employees get ID cards and kits in the mail so that on July 1st, they'll have ID numbers if they have to make any changes to their provider relationships, possibly prescription drugs. One of the other advantages I do want to point out under the Mass Strategic Health Group is they have the unique position, since it's self-insured, of allowing the employees to access re-imported drugs through Canada. So many communities engage with Canadian Drugs or Canarex, which is an organization that was established by the city of Springfield many years ago. And essentially what it means is probably 30 or 40 of the top chronic care medications that are typically filled by members through mail order, they can get them through Canada on a re-imported basis, usually for about a third of the cost, and we can typically waive, if you will, the copays. So there's some expanded benefits that the membership would see under the Mass Strategic Health Group, and that goes for both active employees as well as retirees. So we do see some advantages there. We could certainly go into a tremendous amount of detail. I think it might be appropriate if anyone has any questions, though, for us to maybe answer them.
Board members?
Yes.
So you'll be meeting with these individuals, like the senior citizens and stuff, to go over if this was to get approved tonight or whenever we approve it, you'll be sitting down with each person that's involved in this, so they'll have a full understanding as to what their coverage is and stuff. and-
Yeah, we typically have set up shop in the senior center just about every fall and have invited all the seniors in to explain information, and we would expect we would see a fair number of them. And we'd happy to do this in person. We're also happy to host any virtual meetings. We've done that with other communities, where we've set up a window of time where people can kind of just come in and join, if you will, a virtual meeting and ask questions. I mean, clearly it would be great if we get them all into the high school auditorium and, and coffee and donuts and be able to explain all this. I'm sure we're gonna have to get creative to get in front of them. With the number of seniors, we will have some communication issues. We typically always do. They don't all live in Massachusetts. We know that there'll be a fair number of folks in Florida. There'll be some folks down the Cape that may not come up here. So, we'll have to deal with it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for the presentation. A lot of information. I know a lot of hard work has gone into the decisions that have been presented to us this evening. So this evening, it looks like the Insurance Advisory Committee is making a recommendation that we move forward with the Mass Strategic Health Group. So, pleasure of the board.
I would make that motion.
I will second it.
Okay, a motion has been made to proceed with Mass Strategic Health Group for the town. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for a vote,
Yes.
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 and I will vote yes. That's 5 in affirmative.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
For all the hard work.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to swing back to item D on our agenda, which is right of first refusal waiver request for 24 Conlin Road, Assessors Map 22, parcel A06, with an address of 26A Conlin Road, requested by Chris Prunier Wings, care of ML Eggman, 30 Julio Drive, number 517, Shrewsbury, Mass. 01545. Let's see. So, board members, you have a decision by the Planning Board and Conservation Commission. Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the town waive their right of first refusal for property located at 24 Conlin Road, which is a 5-acre parcel being portion off Assessors Map 22, parcel A06, and shown as Lot 1 in Plan Book 959, Plan Number 124, recorded with the Worcester District Registry of Deeds on October 19, 2021. Said parcel having an address of 26A Conlin Road, Oxford, Mass., and this shall apply to all future transfers.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
I abstain.
Yes.
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 And I will vote yes. That is 4 in affirmative, 1 abstention for the right of first refusal. Jumping back forward. The board is in receipt of another open meeting law complaint by Casey Fleming of 59 Quabog Ave, Oxford. We received this January 3rd, 2022. The board is acknowledging receipt of and reviewing the complaint. Board members, have you had time to review the complaint this evening?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. I would entertain a motion, or let's see, any discussion on the matter? No? Okay. I would entertain a motion that the board vote to authorize town council to acknowledge and respond to the open meeting law complaint submitted by Casey Fleming of 59 Quabog Avenue on January 3rd, 2022, and to provide a copy of the response to the board.
I make that motion?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I will vote yes as well. That's 5 in affirmative. Mr. Sousa, would you like to join us up front? Next item on the agenda is discussion of Zane Place 40B project, 580 Main Street, Oxford. We're going to receive an update from Mr. Tony Sousa.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members. The last time the applicant was before this board, I believe was in September. And at that time, the board decided to hold off, if you will, on this approval of the LIP application for the project at Zane Place until the applicant reached out to the Army Corps and got the approval from the Army Corps. Sometime late November or in the month of December, they did receive approval. Army Corps reviewed the plans, and so. Between September and December, in October, the ZBA met on a completely separate project, 722 Main Street, also a 40B project. And at that meeting, they invoked a provision called Safe Harbor, and in essence, indicating that under their determination that the town has met the state mandate and the state threshold of affordable units in town. When they invoked the Safe Harbor, that was sent over to the state, to DHCD. Now, at this time, the ZBA is waiting on a determination from the state with respect to the Safe Harbor calculations. It's been a few months, and it may take several more months. While that's taking place, and certainly not something that we were planning in September, as I said, it took place in October, the board may wish to postpone a decision on the LIP application until which time that the state comes back with a determination on the ZBA's Safe Harbor calculation. So that would be my recommendation at this time to the board, if you wish to entertain that.
Thank you for the update. Board members have any questions? Pleasure of the board.
I move that the board vote to postpone further consideration concerning the merits of the 40B LIP application for the project at 580 Main Street until a decision is received from DHCD regarding the Oxford Zoning Board of Appeals interlocutory appeal of DHCD's GLAM determination.
I will second that motion.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I will vote yes as well. That's 5 in the affirmative.
Thank you,
Thank
Tony.
you.
Thank you.
I've been staring at that word all night. That's why I did it to you.
Smart move. Never easy.
Next item, vote to accept and authorize Chairman Michael F. Daniels to sign the South Central Mass Partnership Intermunicipal Agreement, Amendment Number 1.
Mr. Chairman, before you, you have an amendment that has come through on an intermunicipal agreement that we have that includes a number of communities here in southern Worcester County. This is a public health initiative that has grown out of the pandemic. Initially, it was set up to acknowledge and to help provide support to communities that do not necessarily have a lot of resources to do everything from inspections as well as community health education and outreach. Originally, the actual intermunicipal agreement was set up with funding. It's based out of the town of Webster, but provides a community such as Oxford, if we do not have a Board of Health agent or they are not available to do an on-site inspection, these roles would be able to supplement, not replace, but supplement, particularly during high times of need. Much good news has come that there is another federal grant that is coming through Central Mass Regional Planning for actual public health nursing services as well, particularly for contact tracing. And so in order for us to take advantage of that, should we need that, even though we have been providing ourselves with some of that, we know as the pandemic eventually moves away that these will also be roles that perhaps help us follow other kinds of communicable diseases. And so since we don't have that designated role full-time, I think the public health nursing services could be well-served. So they've asking us to have the board approve that with the signature and then to amend the current intermunicipal agreement to add this one aspect, which has to do with public health nurses. It was not available at the time, otherwise you would have voted for it. But it's great news because it's several $100,000 that will go towards this initiative to expand public health nursing services.
Board members?
I move that the board accept amendment number 1 to the South Central Mass Partnership Intermunicipal Agreement and authorize Chairman Michael F. Daniels to sign said amendment.
I will second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I will vote yes as well. That is 5 in the affirmative. Next item on the agenda is vote to approve the 2022 IRS mileage reimbursement rate for travel.
I move that I'm so sorry. I move that the board vote to approve the 2022 IRS mileage reimbursement rate for travel at 58.5 cents.
I will second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Yes?
Yes.
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 And I will vote yes as well. That's 5 in the affirmative. Madam Town Manager, you're up.
Thank you. I'm actually going to ask our DPW Director, Jared Duval, and also Tony Souza, our Director for Planning and Economic Development, to come forward, because we have a terrific announcement tonight. It's been a very hard-earned announcement, I can tell you, that started when Sean Dival was our DPW Director, and that was even started and precipitated before I came here with at least a couple of MassWorks actual applications that were never funded for the Route 20, Route 56 sewer extension project, which absolutely is a critical piece of infrastructure that needs to be done before the multi-million, $50+ million Route 20 revamping is going to go on. However, we just could not get a nod from MassWorks. When I had come as town manager, both Sean and I put our heads together about trying to get a more economic development component to this project. With that, we looked at Eastland Partners, who's not only looking at a major housing project, but also looking to expand a foundation footprint for commercial industrial. Even with that, we knew that the competitiveness of the MassWorks project was still not necessarily coming to our beck and call. So we actually put together a executive branch meeting in Boston. Sean Dival said he'll never drive with me again because I was on the phone. I was doing all kinds of things while driving. But it was a successful meeting in the sense that Representative Frost, who could not be here this evening because of a scheduling conflict, but he will be before the board, come and appear. He did meet our request to try to set this meeting up. It included our Undersecretary in the Commonwealth for the Division of Economic Development, Juan Vega, who was the Assistant Secretary at that time, who was very understanding of our dilemma, but could not commit at that time because of the competitiveness of the grant program. However, more than a year ago, I had gotten a phone call from that executive office saying that although they could not do an award letter because they were going to consider us an out-of-round applicant because we had already submitted numerous times but still had not gotten the nod, that they would send us a commitment letter. And I was very excited, but not to say anything until we got the commitment letter. So some time went by. I was supposed to get the commitment letter before January 1st of last year. That didn't happen. Jared had come on board. We talked more about the whole project. Tony Souza came on board. I used every ounce of leverage that I could. We've left telephone messages. We've had discussions with them. DOT was concerned that it wasn't going to happen. Representative Frost exerted political pressure. All of that happened over a long period of time, and we became very concerned, obviously, as we're hearing more about the advancement of the Route 20 project. I want to say that these two gentlemen before me worked hand in glove with trying to exert good, positive, persuasive phone calls, in addition to myself right before the holidays, where I asked the undersecretary if he could give us one gift. It would be before the New Year. And lo and behold, if you read his email, he kind of alludes to that. But that all aside, it wasn't just those kinds of advocacies that took place. It really is a meritorious project that required a lot of engineering, a lot of adjustment to try to meet the actual requirements and criteria for the program. And we couldn't have done it without these two fine gentlemen before us. But it is an announcement of $2.8 million as a grant that is very substantive, and this is really a great kudos to the work that you have done, both engineering-wise and also helping us frame it as an economic development project. And I still haven't made the call to Sean to tell him we did finally get it, but we will do that. And I don't know if you have anything to say, either one of you, but it couldn't have been done without your valuable input. I really believe that. So.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd just say that, as far as DPW is concerned, very appreciative of the concerted effort from the manager's office, from the land management office, Tony, the Planning and Economic Development Director, for their steadfastness in following up with the MassWorks folks. I mean, that really was kind of the running joke for a while since I came on board, was the letter's coming next week. The letter's coming next week. We continued on in good faith, hoping that letter would be here, assuring Mass DOT, assuring their design engineer that it was imminent, assuring our design engineer for the sanitary sewer. So it was very exciting come the end of the year here to be able to tell all those folks we have a real project. This is going to happen, and still a lot of work to do as far as coordination effort with DOT, with their design engineer, our design engineer, with state agencies, with regards to the thresholds for what sewage we can send out of district, and a whole slew of other aspects on this project, but at least we know it's real, and it'll provide an immense public benefit for that corridor out there, and really enhance economic and housing development out there. So very excited for this opportunity.
And before Tony speaks, one of the gifts we have as him as our Director for Planning and Economic Development, we have both had experience with certain individuals within that agency, and one in particular Tony has dealt with, and even had done a lot of outreach to that person, Jackie Furtado. And we were sitting in our office on a couple different occasions talking about the concern we had as the project was not being announced. Just the cost of everything has gone up because of COVID. And originally it was meant to be maybe a $2.5 million announcement. And because of the communication that Tony Souza did have, as well as all of us in the mix, it went from a $2.5 million announcement. The Assistant Secretary did leverage the Executive Secretary to make an additional $300,000 award. So that's terrific news, because remember, if those projects go out to bid and they still come in higher than $2.8 million, we're still going to have to make sure that we provide some funding or find some other avenue to do that. So, I just think that's terrific. And Tony, I don't know if you have anything you'd want to add.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. I think we all recognize that infrastructure is critical for development, redevelopment, and it's very fitting that we're going to see this critical infrastructure come into play along the Route 20 corridor to support the commercial and industry, all the way down to the Pioneer Drive and so on. And with the industrial parks there and the commercial users along that corridor, It's very, very important for now and also certainly for the future. So it's very exciting, and there's a lot of work ahead, as Jared mentioned, but we're very excited for the community.
Can I just interject here, because being on the planning board and the master plan, I think we can't underestimate the value of these grants that we've been getting, particularly this one here, okay? You know, when businesses look to come into a community, there's a couple things they look for. Infrastructure, which is town, water, sewer, gas, good roads. They also look at zoning, okay? And over the past couple years, we've made some zoning changes. This $2.8 million is going to go a long way in developing that area commercially, which is going to have a direct effect on our tax rate. No one likes our tax rate. No one likes what we're paying for taxes. But if we're going to get out of this, or we're going to keep the tax rate at what we want to have as a reasonable level, we need to bring in more business. And I just don't want people to underestimate the value of this type of a grant. It's going to cost the town nothing to significantly improve our chances, our ability to bring in new business. Our commercial development, most of it, is going to happen between Route 12 and 20 and the Charlton line. It's zoned for it that way. We're not far from the Mass Pike or 395. As a matter of fact, at the next town meeting, there's one section of land, I don't know why we missed it, but on the east side of Route 20, that's still residential. It's an R3. I know Tony's working on getting an article to change that. So that whole corridor is going to have the infrastructure that we need. It's also going to have the zoning that we need to really develop that area. And we're not talking 1 year. We're talking 10, 15 years. And that's where a lot of the residential development's going to happen. If you look at development where Spags used to be, it's a combination of residential and commercial. Those types of projects, okay, will fund themselves. Okay, and we're talking about additional schools or teachers or whatever. Between the commercial and the residential taxes, we'll be okay with that. So I really do appreciate the efforts that you people have put in. I know the Master Plan Implementation Committee that Tony are involved with was very happy to hear this, and kudos to you guys. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Excellent.
Jared, just a quick question. Does this, do you have any idea, does this project go hand in hand with the transportation? I mean, will they do this at the same time they probably do the road rather than digging it up and then coming again?
Exactly. So that, as this thing sort of developed, the initial, even back when I was here during my first tenure, the idea was that we would go it alone, right, and do this ahead of that project, because that project was still way out. But as things progressed, and I think as the folks at MassWorks and DOT were talking amongst themselves, it kind of came conditioned that way, that this award would be conditioned that we do participate as part of that project. So that's what we're working through right now, is coordinating with the state, their design engineer, our design engineer, to incorporate our plans, our design into their RFP, essentially, that they'll go out. Their schedule right now looks like in early spring of 2022, they'll advertise, and then this will probably be some of the first work that people see out there. We'll do all the underground utilities first. So their contractor will actually be performing this work. It's called a non-participating agreement, that the town will be back before you, I'm sure, to enter into that agreement. But that's being drafted up as we speak, essentially.
Yeah, I just asked that because I know they're supposed to start this spring. And this is 2-3 year project, so.
Yeah, and that was the idea, to limit the overall disruption the best they can out there.
Cool. All right, thank you for that. Thank you for what you guys did. Great job. Thank you, Town Manager.
Thank you. The next item is the SAFER grant. I wanted to just let the board know that FEMA has opened up another round of the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant, which is under the Assistance for Fire Grants program. I did mention when I was doing my opera presentation that there was a very significant chunk of money that was put into the AFG grant programs, and so I had asked the chief to let me know as soon as he might hear that a new round of funding opportunity would be coming. As you know, we've been in this state for a pandemic. It has definitely taken a toll, particularly on our paramedics and our firefighters who have been our first line of defense over the past 2 years. It's also taken a toll on our on-call providers. Tonight, the chief would have been here, but was not able to come, but he will come before in the future, both to the Finance Committee and to the townspeople, that we're going to advocate for actually doing an application with some professional help to talk about adding additional staff. As you know, as I've tried to look at every department across the town, there has been priorities placed at different time periods. That is one of the things you do as a manager, and one of the things that we knew that this next step for being able to provide adequate coverage so that our firefighters and paramedics and EMTs can be able to work and not be subject to having to cover a lot of shifts when someone needs to go on a vacation or when someone is out sick and those kinds of things. We've brought our staffing up in our police department to, a record level. Chief Sad will tell you that. And now it's time for us to really look to try to do that. The SAFER grant is one opportunity that we have as a community to be able to do that in a way that's gradual, to bring on staffing, and then with each successive year, eventually, we have to account for all of that, but it will allow us for the first 2 years to benefit from a grant program. We haven't gotten the grant yet, but I do anticipate after getting the significant grant we did from the AFG with the help of our United States Congressman, I would hope that this will meet the real criteria, and we can make that adjustment again for our professional full-time firefighters and paramedics. The next item is just to alert the board that we are in full swing, very busy through my office for budget season. Our department heads have been preparing not just their capital needs starting this past fall, but also compiling their requests over the last several months for what they had seen was going to be the needs for their budgets, and they have been meeting with myself and our finance director, Katie McKenna, to advocate for those respective needs. They will be going and appearing before the Finance Committee, and that will begin in February, and both the public and the Finance Committee will be able to hear from our department heads in more detail. The next item is another terrific piece of news. It's always very satisfying as a manager when you make a decision and you don't know how it's going to be, like community electrical aggregation. If you look in your packets, you will see a actual grid here that get that off. So we have a grid in here that talks about our tax title. I had made a decision to change our tax title council. I did not feel at the time that we were getting to the real root of being able to collect taxes that were owed to this community. When you get up into a significant amount of taxes owed to a community, it hurts you in your ability to actually not just run your programs, but also in terms of your bond rating and many other things. So by making that one decision a year ago, I just have some great news because Jillian Connor and myself met with D'Ambrosio and Brown's attorney, Peter Brown, who has been now our attorney because we made that change. In reviewing 2021, this past year, both in terms of the calendar year and the fiscal year, not only did we have a significant land auction, but we have been also able, through the efforts, which have been much more effective in the processes that have been implemented in our collector treasurer's office for alerting taxpayers and property owners when they've exceeded the threshold for making payments and notifying them appropriately. We didn't just have a successful land auction, which brought in $650,000. We had also successful collection efforts that brought in over $335,000. We're talking $985,813 that is going into the town's receipts because of that decision, because of the efforts of our treasurer collector, who's done a phenomenal job. And Peter Brown is just absolutely terrific as well. So that's really important. We have not had, to the best of my knowledge, a movement in that area that significant in terms of taxes to be paid to the town. So I wanted to thank the board as well for supporting the auction that we had, but just please bear in mind, it wasn't just about selling land to come back on the tax roll. It's really also about keeping ahead of collection efforts, and making sure when you see, people who may not be paying taxes over a longer period of time, you have to bring them back into compliance, and find ways to make that happen. So that other significant amount of money was a result of that. Next item is something I did talk to the board about, and I know that we had other board members who had asked to try to circle back about the marijuana retail license that we have. As you know, we had committed, through the efforts of the board, extended an opportunity to True Roots back then to actually enter into a host agreement and for them to pursue setting up a retail operation. Contrary to social media accounts that this board or the town did something to delay the actual business from setting up, that couldn't be further from the truth. The business was its own entity. The business decided itself not to go with a particular parcel of land. We had talked about that. At that time, I'm pretty sure Selectman Troiano had asked if the board wanted to give that business more time to see if they could find another site, because they couldn't come to an understanding with the property owner of the site that they thought they were going to have on Route 20. It didn't meet environmental specs for their funding source through banks. They, since that time, have said and declined that they're going to move forward, and now we have an extra license. So I know that Director of Economic Development, Tony Sousa, and I met. We talked about the criteria of perhaps putting out an RFI to get more attention. As you know, the climate for retail cannabis is still there, but you want to make sure people think we have already committed to another entity. So we thought by putting out a request for information, which is now on our website, thanks to Tony Sousa, we talked about what we'd want to do with this application process so that we could kind of screen and maybe funnel some attention. And I'm bringing this up because as part of the review process, very similar to what we had done for the community center, request for proposals for feasibility study, we want to include at least a member of the board to be part of that review process. So I don't know if this evening we want to acknowledge someone. You could have the chairman, you could have another board member that might want to review whatever we get for proposals. We recognize it takes some time for these entities to put together, a solid proposal. You want to be able to have something that would be ready to go to become before the board. And I think in order to do that, we looked at a May 1st deadline, if I remember off the top of my head, Tony. And so if we can get somebody, that would be what our plan is strategically to go forward, put the word on the street, so to speak, that we're going to have another license, give some opportunities to different businesses that might be interested, and see if we can screen some and get them before the board, so we can make a decision and get that license moving through the Cannabis Control Commission's process, which takes a little time too.
Is that something you're looking for tonight or on a future meeting?
It's up to you. I mean, we have time, so if you want to put it and think about that, who might want to do that, that would be fine. I just wanted to let you know we thought it would be good, and that way you'll have, sort of another set of eyes to help frame what you might be interested in seeing before the board. That would be great. The next item is COVID-19 test kits. I had announced in our previous meeting that we were one of 102 high-need communities designated by the state of Massachusetts to receive testing kits. If you know anything about the numbers that are all over the place, everyone's looking for testing kits. I want to give a lot of kudos to our new Director for Public Health, who prior to the holidays had actually helped frame a distribution based on need, and we held distribution efforts at the Oxford Housing Authority, the Orchard Hill Estates and the Senior Center, and also the Oxford Food Shelf, to try to get these testing kits into the hands of those who are of limited socioeconomic needs. We do continue to have some testing kits available, and so we are about to embark and have put out some advertising on our social media websites that we are going to be offering first to those residents who might not meet necessarily the federal poverty level, but who may be of a senior age grouping, those who may be of age 60 and over, and regardless of the income status. Those kits will be being distributed this week, and then afterwards, we may open it up to anybody, regardless of income or age, because we do want to get these in the hands for residents. We're finding people all over the place looking to be able to have them so that they can determine whether they should actually, be interacting with the public, going to work, going to school, all of those kinds of things. So again, thank you to Public Health Director Rika Sterrett and also Jennifer for helping frame some of the social media advertisements for that. The next item is the roadway borrowing proposal. As you know, on January 4th, we had a special election with regards to a roadway funding project, and we had held 2 major public forums, and despite the fact that that roadway borrowing debt exclusion article had passed overwhelmingly at town meeting, it did not pass at the ballot box. But despite that, I think it's really important, and I'm glad you're still here, Jared, to acknowledge the efforts of our professional staff who put all the energy behind it. They do all of that hard work to try to educate and to try to bring attention to a much-needed infrastructure initiative. I want to thank you personally and publicly again, Jared, as the director for the DPW, for really spearheading this project. I want to thank our finance director, Katie McKenna, and our treasurer collector, Jillian Patch. Excuse me, I called her Connor earlier because she's gotten married, I forgot. For all of their financial wizardry and working with our assessor, Chris Pupka, for coming up with those important figures that are important to the public for understanding what happens in terms of their overall tax rates and what they can expect with a project such as that. I also want to really thank our town clerk for putting together, on the heels of a special election in November, town meeting in October, and then this election coming right after the holidays and rallying all the election workers. All of them did a tremendous service to this town. So regardless of whether it was successful at the ballot box, we were all successful in the work that we did in trying to meet the requirements of allowing the public to do its duty and to give us some decisions. So I want to say thank you to that, and also thank you to our constables and also our police for having us be able to hold an election that was safe and smoothly operated, despite the pandemic, once again. And the final, I know the 75 Depot Street Logistics Center has been on a lot of people's screens for attention. And I know that some of us have already been notified that the actual plan for the public hearing for 75 Depot Street for that large potential distribution center that was scheduled for January 10th has been canceled. This is to alert the board and the public that the developer is working out details of their proposal and had requested that their application be withdrawn without prejudice at this time. So if you're coming to that meeting to talk about that project, I suggest you don't waste your time because it's not going to be on the agenda for the public hearing. And that would conclude my town manager's update and report.
Thank you, Madam Town Manager. Next item on the agenda is the Selectmen's Community Announcements. Vice Chair LeBlanc.
I don't have anything this evening.
Okay.
I have nothing this evening either, Mr. Chairman.
I'm all set. Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to say was thank you to the DPW and the contractors for taking care of the storm on Friday, taking care of the slippery roads today. The extreme cold definitely didn't help road conditions for the early morning commute this morning. So again, as always, Oxford did great. So Jared, please extend my sincere gratitude to the DPW and the contractors for yet again another job well done. And that's it.
I just want to echo what the town manager stated in her report in regards to the staff and professionalism here at the town hall. And all the hard work that was put in over the last couple months with the roadway, with all the elections we've been having, and our offices, the town manager's office, along with the select board office, with just tirelessly working away, late nights, weekends, and just trying to get the overall mission completed, which is to make Oxford better than it already is. And then one other thing, I just happened to notice it before the beginning of the meeting, and figured I'd throw it out there for the community. Downstairs outside of the Selectmen's office this evening, I saw a flyer that was, I'm assuming, placed by Animal Control Officer. I had no idea, so I want to share it with the community, especially since it's chilly outside this evening. Our animal shelter, the Oxford Animal Shelter, does adopt pets out. So anybody in the community that is looking for a dog or a cat, make sure you touch base with Oxford's Animal Control and see what's available. That is all the announcements for this evening. Last item on the agenda is an executive session per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2. Vote to enter into an executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the town manager. I would entertain a motion that the Board of Selectmen goes into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2, and only comes out for the purpose of adjournment.
I make that motion.
Motion's been made.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes as well. That's 5 in affirmative. We are entering into executive session.